Okay, here it is. We are on to the final season of my big rewatch, Season 20. I've said it before, we're not going to go beyond Season 20. I don't really feel like rewatching all of that. So, we're going to end it here. The final season is done. 28 episodes to end it all. And this season was nothing short of amazing. I'm Train King James, and we're on to the Season 20 tier list. I'm really excited to go through these episodes with you guys, because I really like a lot of them. Anyways, let's get into it. Anyways, our first episode is Sydney Sings of Season 20, and this is the first time Sydney gets to be a lead character in the episode. Obviously, he was a bigger character in the missing Christmas tree decorations, but we get to see him truly lead an episode, and we get to really, for the first time, dive into his forgetfulness. This is something fans have known about for years, but they never really used in an episode, but we get to see it at play. And I think it's a simple episode. I think the songs are catchy in this episode, but it's a really nice, sweet episode about Sydney, and what basically a day in his life is like, and it's him kind of repaying the favor to Percy for Percy helping him find his wheels, and now he gets to give Percy his wheels. So a solid entry for the B tier. And we follow that up with another B tier episode in Tobys New Friend. We get to see Philip and Toby interact with each other. I kind of like the way Toby's characterized in this episode. It's a very sweet episode as well. It's different, you know. We don't get nervous, whiny Toby. We'll talk about that later. But in this episode, we get a very, natural older Toby. He likes to keep calm and be quiet. This episode is almost like Big Bell done right, in a way. I really like this episode. I like Philip in this episode. Toby's almost like a grandfather figure to Philip. And I love Philip's determination to try to get along with Toby. I love in their little race, Philip realizes that he's much faster than Toby, so he slows down to let Toby catch up. Just a lot of sweet moments in this episode. And I really like how they used Toby. It was a fun episode. Put it in the B tier. Really enjoyable. And our first of many S tier episodes this season, we get Henry Gets the Express. This is a fun episode where we get to see Henry more confident taking the Express, something we just don't get to see all that often. And we get to see the effect it has on Gordon. And I love both characters in this episode. Henry for being so confident, and Gordon for being so petty. I love that he goes on strike. I love how angry he gets. I love his crash out at Blue Mountain Quarry in front of Scarlet and Rheneas. It's just a lot of fun moments between the two. And I really do feel like Season 20 was the season that, for the most part, best understood the characters. And this is an episode that ranked pretty highly. Then we move to Diesel and the Ducklings, and I put this episode in the C tier. There's a lot to like about it, and not a lot to like about it. And I'll be totally honest, this is an episode I did like. I think it's okay. I think it needs rewrites. I'm very surprised Duck's not in this episode. I know people don't love Thomas blackmailing Diesel. I don't really see it as blackmail. I just see it more as like, hey Diesel, you need to sharpen up, otherwise I'm going to tell everybody a little secret. Because it's not like Thomas is hiding something like bad about Diesel or blackmailing him with something crazy. It's just he doesn't want people to know that he's a softie, which I do get the lesson he's trying to teach. I just think it's, in the grand scale of this season with like amazing episodes, it's just not that great of an episode. There are some funny moments. I don't know why, but Diesel calling Emily Little Lady Longfunnel always stuck with me. It's just a funny insult. But yeah, it's an okay episode, but not the best of the season. And that's why it goes in C tier. Then we get Bradford the Break Fan. And I feel like this episode was written as almost like an experiment for the season. Kind of this idea of, let's give another Break Fan character personality. Let's have some fun with this. I do have some slight issues with this episode. I do really enjoy it, but I do think that the message of this episode is a little messy. It's trying to basically say that you should follow the rules, and rules are there for a reason. But I don't love the way it teaches it. It's a little too exaggerated, because Bradford's obviously a stickler for the rules, and he delays Thomas because Thomas's train is very, very, very slightly overloaded. and he cracks down on like the smallest of infractions. But then the second Thomas goes without Bradford, he very massively breaks the rules and very obviously breaks the rules. So it needs to be, I think it would have been more clever if the same thing happened where Thomas just had like one too many stones on his train, and virtually Thomas looks like it's fine. But imagine if then that stone was like Chekhov's gun, and that stone managed to cause like a serious accident or something. That's where I think you can have the lesson. It's almost like having your cake and eating it too message, because Thomas gets in trouble first for following the rules but being late, but then Thomas is in trouble for not following the rules. So it's like, which do you prefer, right? The show doesn't give a lot of nuance, but I do really enjoy this episode, despite the moral being a little murky. So that's why I put it in A tier, but this very easily could have been an S tier episode as well. Then we go to Saving Time. We get another Samson episode, and this one is just okay. It feels like a very skippable episode. Not a lot really happens. It's kind of disappointing that we find out Samson has this break fan named Bradford in the last episode, and he's a fun character. And then we get to this episode, and Samson does not use Bradford at all. Bradford's not in this episode. So that's a real shame. We could have had nice back-to-back episodes with Bradford, but I guess it was not meant to be, so that's a real shame. It's just kind of a slower episode. Samson himself is kind of funny, but that's about it. There's not much else to it. So again, in a season with really strong episodes, I have to put it in the C tier. Then we get Ryan and Daisy, a solid B tier entry, and one of the best things about season 20 is Daisy. I love her appearances. Daisy does more in this season than she does in any season of the show, which is absolutely insane. They did great work with her as a character. She's funny. She's a much better written female character. Like, they use her laziness in a better way than they did in the classic series, if we're being totally honest. And her character dynamics, we get to see her with the Little Western engines. We see her in this episode with Brian. We see her bounce off of Thomasine and Clarabelle soon. Like, we get to see her bounce off of all these characters, and she's just such a good pairing. And this episode proves why she and Ryan are a good pairing. It's the idea of, Ryan being this naive, affable engine, and Daisy is this kind of cunning, clever, kind of lazy diesel. And we see how she's able to manipulate Ryan, and I think it creates a fun dynamic. Really solid episode. Again, just in this season, there's just so many good episodes that it kind of gets pushed down the list a little bit, and that's why it ends up in B tier. And this is going to be, I think, a controversial opinion in the fandom, but I'm going to put Pouty James in S tier. And I've seen people that hate this episode. I've seen people that love this episode. I'm in the group that loves it. I love this little mini arc that James goes through in season 20. We'll talk about the follow-up episode in a bit, but I really like Pouty James. It's really one of the first episodes of the show to truly call out James's attitude. I know people don't really like the face thing, and admittedly it is a little silly, but it's kind of fitting for this era of the show, so I understand. But the face, James's, face throughout the episode, him grumping and groaning everywhere, it's all about, it's kind of supposed to talk about his personality, how if James isn't the star of the show, he's always moping around and he's upset and he groans and complains. It's supposed to be about that, and that's why everyone's kind of mocking him with weird faces. And I just find this episode fun. I love that they explore it, and I love that they finally, this feels like a straws broken moment. Like, okay, we're done with you and your attitude, James. Like, you gotta shapen up right here, because this is getting ridiculous. And I like that, at the end of the episode, we do see improvement. And that improvement continues in the season. That's the best part. They actually develop James a little bit. It feels almost like a finale to his character, which is a shame what happens in the next season, but we're not going to have to talk about that. But anyways, Pouty James, S tier episode, I enjoy it. Then you have Blown Away. And this is a really enjoyable episode for me for the most part. I love the atmosphere, the storm. I love that we get to see Skiff in a starring role for an episode. This is the first time we get to see that. Now we're in the post-Lost Treasure era. We get to see Duck and Oliver working together on the Little Western. I enjoy this episode. However, I will say this episode does get a little weird towards the end. And if you watched my recent video about my thoughts on All Engines Go, I referenced this episode in the video. The climax of this episode hinges on Skiff being able to free himself from a tree and raise his sail, which is really one of the first times that the characters being able to move themselves was hinged on a plot point. Like, there's been times where characters have shaken or whatever a little bit, or like slightly moved or one way or another, but it's not been really plot relevant. Here, Skiff being able to move himself is plot relevant, and of course that gives ways to what happens next year with the bouncing and the gesturing and all that stuff, but it is kind of like one of those early steps here, and it's just weird that it is a plot relevant point. But again, really good episode. I put it in the A tier. I still really enjoy it. Then you have The Way She Does It, our second Daisy episode of the season. And I think this is a solid entry. I love the scene at Knapford where Daisy's bragging to Oliver and Duck and she's speaking French, and Oliver and Duck have no idea what she said. I don't know why, but Daisy speaking French just works. I just think it's a nice thing to add to her character. Solid episode to go in the B tier. Not a lot else to say about it. Our next episode is, as of right now, my favorite of this season. Because I'll be honest, my favorite episode of season 20 can change at the drop of a hat. There are several episodes I think can fit that description. But my favorite episode of this season is Letters to Santa. Just a beautiful Christmas episode and one of my favorite Christmas episodes of the show. This episode just has everything. I love the flashback to Percy and Harold, complete with the recreations of the Railway series illustrations. I just love the story. We get a Percy and Harold story. Do you realize how long it has been since Percy and Harold have had an episode together? Like a meaningful episode together, not just talking to each other in one scene or whatever. It's been since like season 6. And we get this great story about Percy pulling the mail, his determination about Christmas. I love the soundtrack to this episode. I love the score. There's just so much I love about this episode. It's like near perfect. So that's why I put it super high in S tier, and it is my favorite. And now from my favorite Christmas episode of the season to my least favorite. We have Love Me Tender, and I know some of you are going to be up in arms because I know a lot of people love this episode. I have a complicated relationship with this episode. I'm not a big fan of Donald and Douglas arguing, like, period. I've said this in the past before. There are episodes where it's done better, and I'll admit this is one of the better examples, but I don't love it. But I do love the determination of Donald and Douglas to try to find each other again. I love when Donald realizes what happened. He tries to go look for his brother, how determined he is. It's a really sweet episode with a really sweet ending. I just wish it wasn't Donald and Douglas doing this episode, because honestly, Bill and Ben, if it was Bill and Ben, this episode would have been S tier. I just don't love the twins arguing. But I love Donald and Douglas clearing snow together. I love the fact that this is an episode that stars them. It's just a shame that the show, for whatever reason, only knew, like, I guess they only watched Twin Trouble and thought, oh, that's what Donald and Douglas is. And they just replicated that episode this season and even worse in the next season. But yeah, Love Me Tender I put in the B tier. Then we have my favorite Daisy episode of the season, The Rail Car in the Coaches. If you guys remember, I did a remake of this episode years ago. I really like this episode. This was one of the ones that was one of my favorites of the season at one point. This was my favorite when these episodes first came out. I really like this episode a lot. It actually fell down quite a bit, but this episode is really good. I love the dynamic of Daisy, Annie, and Clarabelle. And this is an episode that features Annie and Clarabelle fairly prominently. And not just features them, but they're in the wrong. We don't get a ton of that. The closest would be Not So Slow Coaches in season 18, but this episode, oh my goodness, just amazing dynamic. They just bounce off of each other so well. And I like how Thomas is kind of the middleman. He doesn't side with Daisy, but he's also trying to keep Annie and Clarabelle on the up and up. I love the ending when Diesel comes in and his theme starts blaring. Oh, that's another thing. The music this season a lot of characters started getting their own themes. So Daisy has her own theme, Diesel has a new theme, James has a new theme. It's not every single character, but a lot of them do get one, and I love that moment. It's just a fun episode. That's why I put it in the S tier. Then we get Mucking About, our first pack episode pretty much since we've had the pack episodes. So think about how long ago those were. I mean, I guess you can count the Great Discovery, but the pack is back. Alright, maybe top Percy and the Bandstand too in season 12. But either way, the pack is back. Think about that. We get Max and Monty interacting with Thomas. I really like this episode. There are some weird animation errors that are obvious, like when Thomas slams on his brakes, his like side rods freeze in like 2 different spots, so he has duplicate side rods for some reason. But other than that, it's a really fun episode. Max and Monty are fun to bounce off of the pack characters, and Thomas, and just how reckless they are is crazy. Like, they almost take it up a level from where they were in the pack episodes, but it fits really nicely. Like, them swerving around the tracks around Thomas is insane. Reckless, but it's something that I do believe the two of them would do. Yeah, it's just a fun episode. Not really a ton to say. I do like Edward's role in this episode, kind of as a mentor. That's about it. And then we have yet another S tier episode with Cautious Connor. I really like this one. This episode kind of surprised me when it came out, because, you know, I thought this, like, looking at the description of the episode and whatnot, I thought it would be a solid episode. You know, I thought it'd be good. This episode was amazing. It's just, I love that we get another episode focused on Connor. I love Steven in this episode. That scene where he's giving Connor his hype speech and trying to get him back as Connor deals with his own form of PTSD after his accident. I love it. It's just so intense and mostly true. I mean, it seems like he's talking about the Rainhill trials and how engines were exploding and parts were falling off like crazy. And I was just taken aback. I'm like, are they really going to go there? Is Steven just trauma dumping right now about the Rainhill trials? And then the show kind of like pulls a Railway Series Godred card. It's like, oh no, I just made that up. I'm like, did you, Steven? Did you actually make that all up? I don't. My headcanon is he didn't, and he just lied because he didn't want to traumatize anybody. But it's just, it was a great moment. One of my favorite moments, period, in CGI. But I really like Connor in this episode, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of the old Bridge, but it feels more really believable here. I mean, Connor's a little bit of a younger engine compared to Skarloey, and I could believe that, like, this might be the first time Connor's ever had a problem at speed, and he'd be concerned about, you know, taking over, you know, having some certain issues. You have, I love the sight gags of, you know, Skiff passing Connor when he's going slow. I love the scene when Thomas passes Connor and Annie and Clarabelle are kind of like making fun of Connor, and Thomas is like, that's not really funny. Like, he sees how serious this is. Like, for the most part, it is played pretty straight, and I do like this episode a lot. Talks about a very interesting issue in a very unique way. And then we're back in the S tier again with another episode. We have All in Vain. So, not a lot of people talk about this with season 20, but we get this little mini arc with James in the season where we get Pouty James, where he's full of attitude and just all about himself. And then we get All in Vain, where we see James really trying to change. And he does, for the most part, exhibit that he has changed. I love the lighting in this episode. I don't know why, it's just the way the characters look this year. They have this really nice gloss to them. The animation is really pretty. Season 20 animation is just peak. But I really enjoy this episode. I love what it does for James, and I love what it does for Edward. I mean, when's the last time we had a James and Edward episode? It has to be since the Hit era. I mean, we get them paired together again. I love the reference that the mayor lives in Suttery on Edward's branch line, so it's nice to know that, you know, Edward still works his branch line. I love Edward doing the Here's Edward bit, because James starts doing the Here's James thing this season. Well, I guess it started in The Adventure Begins, but I digress. I love it. I love that as James goes through all of his tasks, he's trying to keep a, you know, a happy persona. He's trying to, you know, show that he's changed, and you can tell that it's like, it shows that it's like slowly killing him, and he's fighting it so hard. He just wants to do right, but he just keeps getting, you know, things keep going wrong. So I really enjoyed this one. This was a fun episode. It's nice to see James and Edward paired together. I love the moment at the Steamworks when the mayor asks James to take him to like an important meeting or something, and the Fat Controller assumes he's going, and the mayor kind of lets him down gently. It's just a little funny moment. This season's really gotten the comedy down better. Season 19 was very experimental with it, but I think this season gets it a little more, especially because they do spread it around to more of the characters. Sometimes it's in sight gags, sometimes it is in dialogue, but I do really like this episode. Then we get buckled tracks and bumpy cars, and this episode is okay. Again, it's one of those episodes that, a season of really strong episodes, an okay episode is okay. I will say that doesn't feel like there's a lot to this episode. It just kind of feels like stuff happens, the story. There is this gag throughout the episode of the Fat Controller in his hat. This new safari hat his mother gives him. I do really like this joke. And early in the episode, when the Fat Controller just under his breath, he just says, "Oh, the indignity." And Gordon's passing by, and he just says, "That's my line." I don't know why. That always kills me when I hear it. But this episode taught me something when it first came out. I had no idea that it was like a legitimate thing that like railways will paint white lines on the tracks to prevent them from being bent in the hot sun, which is actually really smart. That was a really cool thing to learn. I thought it was just something they made up in the episode, but it actually is a real practice, and I think that's pretty cool that they incorporated it. And now, 3 episodes here that I never thought would ever happen in the show, and yet here we are. We have the Small Railway Engines episodes. The first Railway series adaptations for the show in almost, 30 years? Over 30 years at that point? 20 years, maybe? Yeah, 20 years. My math was off, but who cares? We get first tit for tat, and I put that in S tier. So many fun moments in this episode. We get Thomas talking to the Reverend Audrey. Does he break Rule 55 while he does it? Yes, but I don't care. We get Audrey, taking pictures of Thomas at Farquhar, which I've always headcanoned to be like the iconic Farquhar shot. I don't know why, but that's just my thought, even though it is rainy in the background. And obviously the episode itself with, the Small Railway Engines, and we just get to see a Railway series story again. It was so much fun watching this episode. And the big thing, too, about this episode is the Small Railway Engines, for the most part, have to carry it, because we don't get to see a lot of Thomas and the other characters. And I do like that they do keep the story largely unchanged. They make small tweaks here and there to extend it. But I really like it. It's a really fun episode. And the big thing is, it's interesting listening to these episodes compared to the others of the season, because you can definitely tell, like, these are the Railway series stories. Like, these just have, like, a different writing style and feel to them, even if they are, like, tweaked a little bit. But again, really good episode, really enjoyable. It was fun seeing both the Reverend and Teddy Boston in this episode. Then we get Mike's Whistle, which I just slid down just a little bit to A tier. Just not quite as good as the other adaptations from the Railway series, but I do really enjoy it. It was funny hearing Duck's egg-filled whistle. I just didn't love Thomas blowing raspberries throughout the episode. It got a little annoying. But yeah, I do really enjoy this episode. It's kind of funny because technically we did get an adaptation of this story in Season 6 with faulty whistles, but it's good to see it properly adapted here, and Mike's a fun character, as always. Then we get Useful Railway, which I have also put in the S tier. Man, I remember when this episode first came out, and then we had the Rex Vivo memes, and everyone was doing their version of the crash scene, which is very fun, by the way. I like that it's a slowed down version of Never Overlook a Little Engine. It's very dramatic. They put Willie's tractor in this episode. It's kind of a meme in the fandom. I enjoy that. Just so much good stuff in this episode. So much fun. I just really enjoyed this episode a lot. I really enjoyed all 3 Small Railway Engines episodes a lot. But this one I put in the S tier. And guess what, people? To the shock of absolutely nobody, we are staying in the S tier with the 21st episode, Henry in the Dark. I enjoy this one because, especially with Henry the Express early in the season, it's nice to see the complete opposite for Henry. We're so used to seeing scaredy cat Henry, who's afraid of everything, who's afraid of his own shadow, and we get an episode where Henry gets to scare everyone else. I love the glow-in-the-dark effect on Henry. I love the engines getting scared and running off. It's just a fun moment. I think it just leads to some really funny comedic moments. I like that Henry isn't intentionally trying to scare anybody, but I do like that the idea is, you know, because Gordon can't shut his mouth and he pisses off Henry, Henry decides, you know what, yeah, now I'm going to scare you too. And he keeps it up. So it's a fun moment throughout the episode. Just so many great moments. Then we get 3 steam engines gruff. The lone episode that I thought was bad. I just didn't love the way Toby and Percy were characterized. I think we had better episodes this season. This was such a great season for characterization and so many great episodes, and this is just the one that, in my opinion, just kind of drops the ball on it. It just isn't a very strong episode. It's trying to be a parody of 3 Billy Goats Gruff, and it kind of just becomes that way towards the end. This episode does include the quote-unquote return of Trevor, because Trevor's technically never been gone. He's been around, he just hasn't spoken, but it's his first time speaking in CGI, so he's involved. I do like that this episode revolves around the watermill. It's like a location that we always just pass by. We never really spend time at the watermill, but that's about it. That's about all the positives to say. So I put this episode in the D tier. Then we have Engines of the Future, or Engine of the Future, which is the arrival of Hugo. It's a solid episode. We've seen this episode before in the show. We've seen it with James and the Red Balloon, where the engines are afraid of a thing coming to the railway, replacing everybody. I do like how it's done here, how it's more resentful. But the ending is so heartwarming when they do make Hugo feel welcome, when they realize he's not here to replace them, that it just barely got out of C tier. But the next episode doesn't. Hugo in the airship. It is fine. It's an okay episode. It's just okay. It isn't really all that special. I do find it a little boring, a little repetitive. It just isn't that great of an episode, unfortunately. So for that, I put it in C tier. I really don't have a lot to say. I do like the running gag throughout the episode of Skiff being blown by Hugos Propeller, but that's about it. It's just kind of a slower episode that doesn't really have a lot of intrigue. Which is a shame, because Hugo was the highly marketed newbie for season 20, and the better new character for this season was Bradford, and he barely got marketing. So that's a shame. Then we get the return of Judy and Jerome, the missing breakdown train, where we get to see them eventually move to the Little Western / Allsborough branch line, or the Harwick branch line, however you want to divide it up. But it's fun to see them. There's some funny jokes through this episode. Jerome gets covered in seagull poop, some other things like that. I do like them just kind of being shuffled around the Little Western and the Harwick branch, and their interactions off with the various characters there. I like what they do with them. It's just not a ton to this episode, but it is a solid episode nonetheless. In our second to last S tier episode of the season, we have Skiff and the Mermaid. So we get Skiff paired up with the Fat Controller, where they end up kind of getting marooned near Bluffs Cove, but they don't realize that. That whole episode is hilarious. I like the whole situation, how quickly the Fat Controller goes into survivor mode. Just how insane he goes in this episode. I love the moment with Captain Joe trying to assure his grandchildren that he'll be okay, and both of them just look at each other and shake their heads. They know their grandfather's not okay. It's just a lot of funny moments in this episode. Skiff is fun. He's a really good lead character. Shame he doesn't really get episodes after this. But yeah, fun character to work off of. It was really fun to we spent a lot of time on the Little Western this year. And especially the Harwick branch, especially because that was just introduced in Lost Treasure. So, yeah. Really fun episode. Then we get the Christmas Coffee Pot, which is a fine episode. I consider it a bypass episode. It's one of those episodes you use to kind of get to a point, but we rediscover Glenn. People have mixed feelings about Glenn being rescued. I think it was, people thought it'd be more profound if Glenn wasn't rescued and was eventually scrapped or something, but I will say the scene where Thomas meets Glenn is a little underwhelming. He just is like, oh, you're the coffee pot that I replaced years ago. Not, oh my god, you're still alive. Like, it's interesting. The episode very briefly turns into Hero of the Rails towards the middle. It kind of isn't really a focused story. It has a lot of different things. I like Mary in this episode. They keep her as her typical ditzy self. But again, it's a lot of stuff that happens in this episode, but nothing in like a true plot path. So, I do like the ending where Marion still thinks Glenn is a talking tree. But yeah, this episode is more of a bypass episode for the final episode of Season 20, Over the Hill. In our final S-tier episode. Pairing Steven and Glenn was like absolute genius. This is like Thomas's version of Statler and Waldorf. I love the moment they're about to race, and you start to hear the beginning of Eye of the Tiger. And then it just turns into this, like, slow guys very slowly racing each other to Jingle Bells. It's a fun Christmas episode. I love the rivalry, how they're always just getting back at one another. I love the moment when they're on Gordon's Hill, and Gordon and James catch up to the both of them, and they tell them to move, and they just start heckling the two of them. They just start calling Gordon Young Gordon. I don't know why, that always cracks me up. I love this episode. It's another one of my favorites of the season, and one that was in the running to be my favorite of the season. But that is Season 20, our final season. So now you guys wonder, what's going to happen to the tier list season now? Well, as I've been watching these seasons, I have also been watching the specials. So I've watched every special from Magic Railroad to The Great Race, and now I'm going to do another tier list sometime in June, where I rank all of the specials into various tiers, and then finally, the last thing I plan to do is a big tier list where I rank the seasons themselves. And the way I rank the seasons is very interesting. I'm going to talk about that when we get to that point. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this tier list video. This is Train King James. Happy Memorial Day, signing off.